Hello, and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. I'd like to talk about bowling again. It's been 4 months since the Tough Kids from Racine apartment manager Bully has left. They have a new apartment manager that she's very nice. She tries to, she's making peace and also she's understanding of me and others. And when others do try to attack me, she does sort of tell them, no, there are many people living in different personalities, not to attack people. Last night, I was finally able to get back to doing what I normally do, baking, and I baked the chicken in the oven because I got over the fear of having to keep the oven super sparkle for this Tough Kids from Racine manager. And that, let me show you some other things I did in redecoration. Well, whoops, for a while basically, I had to take down my idea board because basically this one tough kid from Racine was raised labor Catholic. And basically, I also was doing social class warfare because I was raised in suburbs and she was raised in Racine labor neighborhoods like that. Though my family and I lived, sort of grew up in Racine. I went to Racine Bible School, which is up the street on Kinsey, for preschool. When my dad was an executive at Walker, and my mother and I, when my dad, some days we go to downtown Racine, shop at Penny's, then we go to Shorecrest, and then we come out and go to the Loom and come out here and shop basically at Shopco and other places and that though. So a lot of people thought I lived in this West Racine neighborhood, and actually in a way I did because we'd come up here more than we do in Kenosha because in Kenosha we used to run into some of the tough kids from Kenosha, so to get away from the tough kids of Kenosha, we went where they didn't go. Well, just to give you an example of some of the liberation from the tough kids, I was able to set up my computer again, feel like I want to do coding again, like that though. Um, Set up my hobby center and that, and also have my things where I don't have to keep everything so neat all the time. Clothes I wear that need to be reshuffled. Excuse the bed. I sort of didn't make it this morning, just when I just got up, but you can see some other things here. Um, also, also the idea board with two posters that I made basically from. Let's see if I can get a better. There we go. Two posters I made from uh, an 8 by 10 advertisement. Another post I made from an 8 by 10 advertisement. My fairy lights and my bookcase. And see, I also moved the bonsai plant on top of the bookcase along with noise canceling headphones. So even when I watch and live with people talk outside the hall, I don't hear them. And then you can see some of my teddy bears, um, like that though. Um, it also see that there we go, and the Cookie Man, and also I bought Statue Ova got us a transformation storm and change like that though. The other thing, another thing, what I did though is also I'm getting back to where I can have my desk. I don't always have to keep it neat. I can have a working desk. Again, not have to worry about being like I'm always under constant bad, bad pseudo military inspection like that. Like this one person, she always would wear her army lanyard, husband's army lanyard. Um, I worked with people in the services and they never acted that way. Those that did were normally drummed out, like are those that are drummed out, or those who are paramilitary or something, or militia crazies like that, though, and stuff. And you can see this is how I did my how I did the Barbie room, and also I'm watching a YouTube video on styling. I like the ultra wide monitor. I like to get that. And then again, I modify. I saw put some of my artwork together, fashion work, and also coordinated everything. In regard to bullying, what I'd have to say though is this basically. Although it's been 4 months since this tough kid from received bully manager left at a husband, I'm still feeling side effects. That's why I called my insurance company, have a therapist to start therapy. Basically, again, rather than taking medication. But even when I talk with my friends, they can tell I'm still affected by this because my friends will ask, "Well, how are you feeling today? Are you okay?" And then even sometimes if I do rant too much, they have to hang up because it gets too much for them. And and what I just want to say about this is this: what bullies try to do, it's like the movie The Cell, um, which I saw as a wonderful movie on many bases. But what Jennifer Lopez's character found out in The Cell was that basically she thought that she could help people by going into their world, but actually what happens is basically she by going into one person's world she was converted herself and she had to fight to get out. That's how I feel like that at this moment, and that's why I realized I have to go back into my world and get out of their world, and that's why when I had someone do this to me a long time ago, my dad figured out a way for me to do it. To first get over my PTSD was now called encounter therapy, but at that time it wasn't called that. So we watched a lot of episodes of Stargate SG-1, Andromeda, and part of the reason why my dad liked Andromeda was because Andromeda was about a group of freedom fighters, but it also had a freedom fighter who was a religious person, but he wasn't a crazy. He wasn't one of these delusional people. He was down to earth. He realized that what the world is, and you do have to fight back and fight for your rights, but you have to also work on a higher standard too, and always strive to maintain a higher standard, but don't get egotistical. Don't let the power get you. Stay humble, and that's why I'm making this video about the tough boys and tough kids from Racine. Right now they've been put back in their corner, sent back down into their holes, but I still wonder when they're going to reemerge again. Friends of mine say, "Well, you don't have to worry about that," and I hope not, and I'm trusting them. That's why we decorated the apartment last night and last few days to do this. But to others, though, I'd say please be careful because if you do run into bullying, the first thing to do if you have insurance, call an insurance company, ask to talk with a therapist. And when I did talk with the therapist from United Healthcare and told her about how they took my sofa, they took my recliner, took my bedding, claiming that there are issues. She just gasped, and I told her about the other things, and she said, "What type of people are these?" And also I mentioned about how she was trying to do her army thing with wearing her husband's army lanyard. And I was a civilian military contractor for many years for the Air Force and the Navy, and one thing, many people who are enlisted and many people who are civilian contractors are enlisted. When you do interact with civilians, there's some things you can do in the military or as a military contractor that you're not allowed to do as civilians. And one of them is the civil when someone is a wife of someone who had served, um, the people in the apartment are not their platoon. They're not their battalion. And also the apartment manager is not a CO. The apartment manager is a civilian, and doing that is basically more than just a violation on many levels. And that's what this person did. She tried to run this apartment like an Israeli military kibbutz, or basically like a military battalion or barracks or platoon. And that's why many people didn't like. They described it as not liking her management style. And the new management now understands that they have a manager that's understanding, that's also understanding about LGBT issues. That LGBT issues also are not something new. It's been around for all of civilization for many thousands of years. Even though some people are just becoming aware of it, it has been around. So what I say to bullies is investing. You always have to respond, but don't respond on their level. Don't go down to their level. That's why during this thing, I remember my parents' best advice was don't go down to their level, but respond on higher level. That's why I got legal. I got medical. And he even also called friends who I worked with as a military contractor to see what they could do, and they said, well, this person's not supposed to be doing this way. They said, who is this person? So the thing is, what happens? You got to respond, and even if someone is not acting as a pseudo military wannabe, also if someone's trying to act as a church wannabe, basically from a backwards church, you guys say no. Second Amendment gives you the right to practice the faith you want to practice, but it also gives me the right not to have to follow not to follow your church or your faith, and to practice or not practice how I choose. And that so the Second Amendment is a limited amendment like the First Amendment. The Second Amendment is a limited amendment like the First Amendment. The Second Amendment is a limited amendment like the First Amendment. And this is why I wish the Supreme Court would actually make a ruling stating that the First and Second Amendments are limited amendments. The Supreme Court did make an 1895 ruling for the First Amendment, but I wish they'd make one for the Second Amendment, and also make a third ruling listing which amendments are limited amendments. So basically, we don't run into these crazies and these delusional people and bullies trying to hide behind the Second Amendment, and also trying to hide behind wanting to be military wannabes or spouses or children of those who served or are serving. Because I've worked with many people who've served, and they're wonderful. In the Air Force, they were my big brothers and sisters during a crucial time, and even through today. And even in the Navy, they were my big brothers and sisters too through this time too. So I still think fondly of them, and that though all those I met and worked with in the service and even in the DoD. So but Boeing has to stop. Boeing has to stop, and it's not just, well. I'm sorry, we don't watch close stuff. I've had that happen so many times. I could count them on both hands and both feet, many times over. No, that has to stop. It has to be proactive. It has to be proactive. Has to be proactive, like on a football field, like in a football game. If someone jumps off sides, a tackle jumps off side, there's a flag, there's a whistle blown, and there's a penalty imposed. That's how it has to be, because it's become so bad right now. That's the only way we're going to stop bullying. So, well, let me know what you think. And the best way, as I said, is how to reach me on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Pinterest. Well, thanks for listening. And this has been my second talk on bullying, and a status report. 4 months after having a year encounter with the tough kids from Racine in my building.